Now, just recently, the Menendez brothers have had a change in their sentence. After 32 plus years, the two brothers that killed their parents, who had overwhelming evidence that they were molested and abused, will have a chance at release. More than likely, the law states if you get sentenced for a murder, if you get sentenced for a crime under the age of 26, you cannot get a life sentence. You have to be eligible for parole or certain sentencing guidelines like under 50 years, 40 years, depending on your state. Now, here we go. Their dad was in the music industry. They just had one of the bands that Ricky Martin was in, a boy band back in the day, one of the members come out and say that the dad was molesting him. The sister of the Menendez brothers' mom that they murdered, she said they were getting molested. Everybody but one person in their family agreed this was going on. However, this is the game they play in prison, in the justice system, politics. First trial was a mistrial. They didn't want to convict them boys on murder one and send them away forever with all the proof of abuse, and then they find out they're hiding evidence. They go back to the trial. It's just like, boom, they send them away. But here we go. 30 some odd years later, a DA has come out and said more than likely they will be released within a year as they pose no danger, but they still won't let the murder go. They're still going to hold it as a murder. They admit that they were abused. Overwhelming evidence. They admit that they need to be back on the streets, that they are rehabilitated, and they did longer than any kid at that age should have done, as their frontal lobe isn't developed. It's a law that goes deep into many states, and they have different sentencing guidelines, but you cannot do life. But they will never say these kids were hurt, because as always, they protect the predators even when they're dead, even when it's over with, because those predators will make them look bad. And just like so many times, you see families never get justice until they get justice in prison, because they've reported it, they've done everything, and the guy eventually goes to prison for doing the ultimate crime, and he gets whacked in there. But this was the opposite. The kids came from a rich family. It was unheard of at that time, and the brothers came together, they snapped, and they murdered them. Now imagine you've been getting abused your whole life, and then you get millions of dollars given to you from your family. I mean, that's all they know, is to be cunning. Their dad taught them to be evil, to fight violence with violence, and murder and molestation, and to extort and molest kids and boy bands. And they snap, get the money. You think they're just gonna not fucking say, fuck them motherfuckers, let's enjoy our life? Teenage kids, 19, 20-year-old kids. But they won't admit they were wrong, as always. So basically, we all know it was involuntary manslaughter, or voluntary manslaughter, duress syndrome, whatever, wherever you want to call it. But they called it the abuse excuse. Imagine that. They find proof that these kids were getting molested. Even the family of the brother and sister of the parents that were killed admit it. A boy band that was part of the father's group that he was part of says he was molested. They find letters, cousins, everyone was coming out for years and years and years. And they called that the abuse excuse. So it was a high profile case, and you guys didn't give a fuck that these kids were hurt and they've been fucked up their whole life. And they snapped. Everybody was talking about it. Letters were being written. But once again, they failed the kids. But this time, there was no parents to get after the offender. There were no convicts to get after the offender. There was big brother and little brother. So they'll be out, and people can have their opinions. I respect it. But at the end of the day, if a kid is 19, 20, they've been getting molested their whole life, and they're fucking having savage confrontation, and their dad's basically threatened to kill them, and all this proof they have, and they snap and kill the parents, okay, you got to do a 10-piece, 15-piece. But all those other officers and parents and sisters and uncles that knew about the abuse and weren't going to DCF and all these other places because they wanted to keep their image, they should have been arrested too. They should hold some of these prosecutors accountable for what they do, officers accountable for what they do. But no, it's always about the money. It's always about We won't do anything for a kid until we have to do it. We won't do anything for a parent unless they protect their kid, kill the predator, and then we'll take them to prison. And the predator will get out in 3 years. And you wonder why convicts kill these motherfuckers, extort them, and do the worst of the worst to them. Hey, stay out, stay free, us.